Welcome one, welcome all, and welcome back for another dose of Knightmare Fuel. And this week's Knightmare Fuel is literally Knightmare Fuel, because the show's called Knightmare. Slick segue, Connor, well done. Knightmare was a bizarre anomaly in the kids' adventure game show genre. We've seen many classic variations of this with stuff like Raven and Jungle Run, which too had their fair share of fearsome challenges. But Knightmare was easily the weirdest and most frightening of the lot. Hey, you know what never looked that great at all? Blue screen chroma key. Yes, in these modern times, green screen has come a very long way in being able to put people in extraordinary locations. But between 1987 and 1994, on the CITV budget, this was as good as you were gonna get. The setting of Knightmare was a medieval fantasy environment, a large dungeon full of deadly puzzles and traps which the team's leader must traverse with the help of 3 friends who act as guides. Whoever is brave enough to take on the challenge must don the helmet of justice and claim the name the Dungeoneer. But the reason the Dungeoneer needs help is because the helmet of justice obscures the wearer's vision so that they can only see their feet, and thus the 3 guides help the Dungeoneer navigate. Now, of course, we all know that the production of this must have been ridiculous, as you have a kid in a helmet walking around an empty blue room with their mates shouting at them. But we, the audience, don't see that. Oh no, all we see is one of the most nerve-wracking and near impossible game shows ever seen on kids' TV. The brainchild of Tim Child, the game was composed of a tailor-made dungeon which changed for every team so that the challenges were always fresh, though some similar themes and challenges returned here and there. Each dungeon was made up of 3 levels, and each level was made up of several rooms, and within the rooms were challenges, obstacles, and characters from within the medieval world, some friendly, some not so much. This meant that every single episode of Knightmare was unique, and each team who entered the dungeon could never plan and strategize ahead of the game, as it constantly shifted its structure. This unpredictability is what made Knightmare not just an awesome show, but also a fearsome one, because the audience could never tell what dangers were ahead for the Dungeoneer. And to make that suspense and tension even worse, the game had a time limit, represented by an on-screen life meter that gradually depleted, so there's the extra added pressure of having to be mindful of the pace you're moving. I hate that so much. Even in video games, Capcom fucking love a countdown timer, and it always makes my heart rate surge because you don't have a clue what's coming ahead, so you don't have a full understanding of what speed you should be going, and that just makes you get stuck in panic mode, wondering if you're going too slow or make you end up going too fast and dying from trying to rush through. Time limits are mind games, and here in Knightmare, it's not just a timer, it's a life bar, indicating that the Dungeoneer is going to die if they don't get their act together. Such a horrifying concept for a kid to imagine. The life meter itself was creepy because as it depleted, it made the Dungeoneer progressively lose flesh and turn into a skeleton. Just what you want to see. What makes matters even worse is that the show developers made sure that the life meter wasn't long enough for the full length of the dungeon. It depletes quickly, so for the Dungeoneer to help boost their life back up again and increase their time in the game, they need to reach checkpoints within the dungeon where they can grab and store items of food to increase their health. This just adds more to the tension and hurriedness of the game, as the life meter runs down fast, with reaching checkpoints as their only saving grace. And if you do go too fast and take the wrong route through the dungeon, of which there are several, and hit a dead end, that's it, game over, you can't go back. So here's the thought process of the Dungeoneer. I can only see my feet, I need to walk through a dungeon full of threats that I can't see, listen intently to my 3 friends and trust their guidance so that I don't die taking the wrong route, encounter people that I can't trust or may kill me. My life is running out quickly, so I need to move fast to get to a food checkpoint, but also take my time so that I don't clumsily get killed, and then keep that up for 3 incrementally intensifying levels that contain multiple unknown, unpredictable dangers. Christ almighty, and I thought the way of the warrior was stressful. Then let's just talk about the dungeon itself. The blue screen effects were actually pretty great for the time, but on hazy TV screens of that era, the environment was an otherworldly mishmash that somehow still managed to be immersive. Plus, the dungeon was full of dark corridors, dimly lit rooms, creaking doors, bottomless pits, tunnels with saw blades coming out the walls. Like, they're not even medieval. Imagine a kid being sliced in half right in front of you. The dungeons and blue screen effects did progressively get better as the show went on, but the level of danger never changed from being anything but mortifying. To help stitch all the levels and challenges together were a few main recurring characters, most notably a Saxon knight named Tregard of Dunshelm, who acted as a host and a continuity guide, giving the team useful information, explaining the challenges and their outcomes, and upon the death of a dungeoneer, talk through what caused it. Over time, Tregard gained some assistants to do relatively the same job and act out skits between challenges, but as he was a part of all 8 series, Tregard was a key part of the show's legacy. Another memorable inclusion is the show's intro sequence. The theme song is uplifting and heroic, but the visuals, oh my days, the visuals. The earlier series had this Masters of the Universe style animated intro where a horse-backed hero was faced with monsters, dark castles, lightning storms, just about anything you wouldn't want to bump into. But in the later series, it got worse as a dungeoneer is attacked by a giant jump-scaring worm snake thing, then is nearly pierced by spears shooting up out the ground, and opens a door to a massive pit that he falls down. And you think, that's it, he's fucked. But no, a giant stone hand extends from the wall like Freddy Krueger in Nancy's bedroom and grabs the dungeoneer, sending him to a fiery underworld-looking hellhole where a screeching dragon dwells. Thank you for putting the shits up all of us from the off, guys. The legacy of Knightmare wasn't really appreciated until long after it finished, with repeats on the likes of the Sci-Fi Channel and Challenge being where a lot of people first experienced the show, myself included. The lore of the show was also expanded upon in a series of 7 books written by Dave Morris, which explored how Tregard ended up in Knightmare Castle. Activision released a Knightmare video game for multiple platforms, including the ZX Spectrum and the Commodore 64 back in 1987. In 2012, a lifelong Knightmare fan created a documentary for YouTube to commemorate the show's 25th anniversary, and in 2013, a one-off special episode was made featuring some of the show's original cast, with the contestants being YouTube creators. The legacy and mythos of Knightmare has always been fascinating and lives on throughout the ages, but one thing that is definitely certain is that it is one of the most heart-pounding, fear-inducing, sweat-producing, knee-wobbling, back-breaking, eye-opening, and boot-quaking challenges to ever hit kids' TV, leaving a long dreaded path of dead dungeoneers at the castle gates. But what do you lot reckon? Do you think you have what it takes to be a dungeoneer? Could you tackle the terrors of Knightmare Castle? Or would you much prefer to just chill at home in front of a blue screen? Let me know in the comments below, and if the Helmet of Justice isn't obscuring your vision too much, navigating your cursor to the subscribe button and clicking upon it will release the riches and splendor into the dreaded cascade of the world. Until next time, brave warrior, good night and sweet nightmare-fueled dreams.